Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another AshenCast. It is once again me, a gentleman of leisure, of HandOverTheAmulet, and I find myself in pleasant spirits, having heavily drunk over these last few days. It has been my day of birth and such. I have been celebrating, and I find myself in surprisingly empty company of late. It's almost as if a veil, if you will, has come over the place. The beverage of this week is a cherry wine brought to you by Gale's Country Wine Company. Please sponsor. Seriously, I need the money. But moving on, darlings. I do, in fact, have a guest this week, and it is Gruss. Gruss? Am I pronouncing it right?
That is correct.
Gruss?
The actual character name is Grussin, but he generally goes by Gruss.
Okay, we got Gruss here from the... Now, I've managed to keep mistyping this when I've been trying to put the damn schedule up and things, so I'm pronouncing it right by saying Veil, right?
That is correct, sir.
Good. Because unfortunately, I keep spelling it like veal. I do apologise. Terrible with the keyboard. I'm utterly terrible. And do bear in mind, this comes from an English student, so I'm awfully ashamed. But moving on, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, we got back to our regular schedule in between these little specials I've been arranging. And so we're back to a little guild interview, and Gruss has sportingly come on to talk about his guild. And so first things first, any recent events in the general Guild Wars community, because... Just anything. Fun little things, fun little stories, or just anything you want to talk about. This is a nice little icebreaker for the beginning of the show.
Well, when it comes to, like, in-game events and stuff like that, I am probably the most uneducated person on Earth. I've been on the same tune since launch, and I'm only level 50, because I haven't done squat except roleplay.
Hold me, you understand me. We are totally same level. I'm level like 48 and I'm an engineer and I'm meant to be this criminal person, and it's just like, I'm there to have some fun, and I can't always level, but I can always roleplay, so it's like, everyone's like, I gotta get this epic gear so it look great for your character. It's like, but I'm not level 80. Some of us have been roleplaying rather than doing dungeons.
Well, I know people that have plowed through 2-3 alts and they're all 80 and they're looking at me and they're like, what's your excuse, dude? I'm like, RP?
Yeah, RP, dude. Some serious shit up in here. Don't be crossing the line when it comes to RP.
Hell no.
Oh, God. So it's great to finally meet someone who's on the same level as me, because, oh, Lord, I mean, I know some other people, their characters are like level 2, because they've got some really heavy RP ties, so they've leapt straight into the community, which is fantastic, but at the same time, it must be a bit annoying, because you got to admit, it's nice to pimp out your character now and then.
Yeah, I mean, I think I hit level 53 weeks ago. I'm still there. So, one of these days I have to get back into some world versus world and take some supply points or something and get a level or two and then sit for another month.
I've done my leveling for this year. Just back to hibernation.
It's pretty much, yeah.
Oh my God, we definitely understand each other then.
I mean, after doing the WoW leveling grind, I got one tune to level cap in 85 back in Cataclysm, and I started some alts. They'd get to about level 20, I'd be like, screw this.
Yeah, done. Well, it's more about the roleplay community. It's why we're on before the game even launched, I was involved in the beta a little, but Tarnished Coast was definitely off the bat dubbed a roleplay server, so I never expected to find so many... Well, I say that, because it's wrong to say RPers don't play, because... Everyone else but us seem to. You know what I mean? Everyone else is running around at level 80. I'm just there like, what's wrong with being level 38? I'm in a good middle ground. I don't leave Divinity's Reach often.
Pretty much, yeah. That's been my experience in a nutshell right there up until recently.
See this? Blood brothers, ladies and gentlemen. Brother from another mother right here. That's what it is. Though I gotta admit, the whole leveling for gear is actually my only real motivation in terms of actual looks. It's great that you get a good thief set or you get a good engineer set, and it looks good. But when everyone's got the same set, things start to get a bit repetitive, and I do hate that because I always like to add a bit of personal flair. So I go out of my way to combine as many bloody combinations of different armor as I can to try and make something unique.
Yeah, I've got anybody that's seen Gruss pretty much knows his high C outfits. It's hood, long coat, pistols. Alternating colors using the dye system, but generally he's in the same thing. He does have an actual armor set that he took to wearing recently, but it needs repairs right now, ideally.
Oh, I know that. Know that feeling. But Sealy? I never actually. Huh. I've never taken clothes into account. That's actually a very good point.
Grush is pretty much the guild punching bag. Every time we have a major fight, he ends up getting carried out of it.
Good lord. A character that can take a hit, I gotta admit, I actually do praise that. I mean, oh god, this is going to make me sound so high and mighty, but unfortunately I've had a few bad experiences in WoW and a couple of other RPG games, as everyone can probably claim. I mean, the number of times I've seen fight breaks out and people have just sort of, oh, I took the punch. It's like, the guy was wearing plate, that should fucking hurt, you know? So it's really good to see characters that can take a punch. I mean, I'm one of them. I know plenty of others who do. You know, they've actually gotten properly wounded, and I do praise that because it's realistic. You know, I mean, I'm not going to get into a fist fight with a guy in plate armor because I ain't going to win.
I have gotten into fights with a guy in plate armor, and it never ends well.
Good lord, man with fighting spirit.
He's not a young man, so. He's got the experience under his belt. It's just lately shit luck.
I mean, oddly, I find myself more in country clothes, actually. Is that what they're called now? I can't remember now. My mind's suddenly gone blank. But, you know, the alternate clothes set when you're town clothes. Sorry, that's it. Good lord, I've just sounded dumb. But yeah, I mean, the town clothes I usually find myself wearing. I mean, God, I've taken the top half of the fur coat. And the standard trousers and boots. That's the majority of my outfits has been so far. So I can definitely say we'd be a very fun contrast to see, shouldn't we?
Yeah, that's a funny thing. Every time I've had to have the character kind of get into a disguise or, hang around somewhere he normally wouldn't, it's, he dresses nicely, he takes the hood off, and people are just kind of like, what?
Suddenly dolls up nicely, isn't it? It's a good aspect. I mean, it's rather interesting to see that. I mean, the game is detailed, but not amazingly so. So seeing the transformation of someone you've always seen as dark as shady to someone in proper fine clothing, it's quite impressive when people actually pick up on that.
Oh yeah, I even crafted an alternate personality for him when he's in that get up, when he's in that mindset. He becomes a seller of cheeses named Arthur Pitt.
I love that. Also, there's not enough seller of cheeses. That sounds weird. I mean, I've been around, there's a few merchants that actually have gone out their way in character to actually sell stuff. So they're actually selling proper chef's ingredients. And never heard of a cheese merchant. I'm like, why is this not a thing? Cheese is important in this day and age. Surely, I mean, it's one of the few foods that's actually quite well preserved. Odd little tangent of my support of cheese there. But, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you get my point. Hey, please, darlings, please cope with me. I'm at the bottom of the label by now. Please, keep with me. But yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic aspect of the duality, and we'll probably definitely have to go in more in depth in that when we move to that part of the questioning. But let's try and roll up our introductions here. So, any particular events this week you've rather enjoyed, or just funny moments, or just anything you've observed in the community you found rather humorous? Anything?
God, my week's been kind of stressed out IRL, so I'm kind of not up on outside of what's going on in my own guild and some things, but as far as humors, just generally when you have, I guess I don't know if this would count, but generally just the lulls when you're RPing out a scene and the scene finishes and nobody knows, have that odd moment of how to segue out of it, and then somebody does something like take a Ursin tonic and then start dancing. That's been about the highlight of my amusing week, because I had to do that at one point the other night when they were doing the server maintenance, and we couldn't whisper anybody, we couldn't get in a party with anybody, and we're trying to have a quiet conversation no one can overhear, and it just came to a grinding dead halt because of it. So I popped an Ursin tonic and just started dancing because I was bored.
I know that feeling. I always find that quite fun. I mean, I go out of my way to, in party chat at least, or anything like that, to use, just put ... end scene ... A good fade to black to try and end anything. because it's hard to bring some things to a close. And so, in my experience, at least, one of the best ones I've seen is me and a group of people all sat at this tower, and it was like the end of the RP, and we all just stood there for a moment. We just put end scene, and then it was just went to out of character chat. And we're just like, so, yeah. And two of us were engineers. The other one was a warrior. So they just did a leap attack thing off the balcony, and I exploded because I had the rocket boots, and the engineer just just flew off the other side. And it was like, yeah, that's a pretty good exit. That's a good way to end the RP right there. Suddenly just falling bodies off a tower. It's like, I'm out, boom.
Yeah, so that was just the things, and it's not, I don't know if it's just limited to RPers. I think it might be more so because we spend a lot of time utilizing those things in a way that other players don't, where they'll party up to do a quest or a dungeon or something, where we'll party up because we want to, have a whispered conversation about doing something bad and nasty to someone, and we don't want everyone overhearing. So I think we use those simple little things a lot more.
More, yeah, definitely.
And when they're not available, it's like, oh god, what do we do? Because we don't have anything else on tap at the moment. Dance party!
Dance party. Everyone panic. Dance party. See, now I've got, Are We Human or Are We Dancers stuck on my head now, and that's going to be there for the rest of the week. I need more alcohol.
I'll drink to that.
Cheers, everyone, from the AshenCast and various communities. Dear God, I have a good weakness for human wine. Human wine? What the hell? Am I really that far gone? Cherry wine. I make my wine from humans. Wow, that's a startling revelation, ladies and gentlemen.
Would that be the Soylent wine?
Oh, images. I mean,
somebody call Charlton Heston.
Gosh, you. Speaking of cherries,
no one will get that reference.
A few might. Okay, if anyone gets that comment, we're going to have to make a thing of this. What gets me about this cherry wine is, oddly enough, I've been playing PlanetSide a lot recently with friends. It's a good, free shooter, epic battles, that kind of thing. And, I'd definitely support anyone getting into it. And at the end of the day, it's free. It's totally free. But I say that knowing full well, LOL's totally free. But yeah, I probably lost about 60 quid into that game. So it's free, but they'll get your money one day. They'll get it. But one of the big things I found quite amusing was anyone who plays the Infiltrator class will know this, but the armor's quite smug fitting. And I'm the medic, so I'm usually at the back of the group. So my immediate comment to any Infiltrator in my group, male or female, is just, I swear to God, they spent ages just rendering the shadows on your ass. I'm not joking. It's a perfect cherry shape. Pervious as it is, it's true. If you just look at the character model when it's running, it's like, really? You spent that much budget on a tight suit? Just saying. So yeah, it's usually quite funny running along, just seeing that bombing down in front of you. It's something to aim at, I guess. But swiftly moving on before I just spiral into another well of debauchery as I usually do. Moving on into general Q&A. So, first things first. Full name of your character, sir.
His formal name, as he knows it, is Grusson. If you ask him what his surname is, he can't tell you because he's long forgotten it.
Oh, interesting quirk. Straight off the bat, intrigue. And moving on from that, what do you do for the Veil?
Gruss Icylee is the second in command of the Veil. He's known, if there was a rank or a title to be given to him, it would be the Black Hand. His primary responsibilities are the security of the group and their operations, and ensuring that, as has been quoted before, shit gets done.
Ha! I like this character. Straight off the bat. I mean, I've said this before. Good to see another criminal element. Like I say, cops and robbers. You can't have the cops without the robbers, and you can't have the robbers without the cops. So I do love seeing both sides of the fence. And as anyone knows, I'm a firm supporter of criminal RP because I do a lot of it myself.
Oh yeah. He's also, due to his age and how long he's been doing it, he's kind of seen as old hand at it and a teacher of sense, in a sense. If people have a problem, with a job that they're trying to put together or something, they generally will come to him for advice. If they want to brush up on dirty street fighting tactics, they'll come to him, you know. So he's a man of many hoods, I guess you could say.
Definitely like that. Though I do support the dirty fighting, because I've seen some quite interesting fight RP. I mean, some people are using the dice system, some people just like to RP it out. I mean, there's various different forms. But I got to admit, it's quite funny watching dirty fighters, and actually, one of my own sort of slight funny moments was I managed to attend with one of my sort of gangster street character, Gabriel, when the local militia and a seraph group were sparring together. And promptly, we and the occasional criminals on the side started placing bets. And before anyone asks, I lost 20 silver on some of the fights. I'm heartbroken about that. Because one of the seraph fought dirty as they come. Fist fight, they grabbed a rock and smacked him over the head. I was just like, okay, in character, I'm really annoyed at you because you cheated. Out of character, damn, that's an impressive tactic.
Yeah, one of our characters who's she's generally not involved in the dirty tactics. She's more of like an ambassador we send out to set up meetings with people. Wanted to brush up on some of this stuff, so Gruss took her out to Queensdale and pretty much told.
Sorry, pretty much saying so perfect. Taking her out to Queensdale.
Pretty much told her, okay, hit me. She goes to hit him. He drops to the ground, tangles her legs up in her own. When she hits face down on the ground, he rolled onto her back and did what they call the fish hook, where you take one finger, put it in someone's mouth, and then pull the side of their lip back so that their head kind of twists. And then he just took a thumb and jabbed her in the jugular and said, if that had been a knife, I'd just kill you.
Welcome to the wonderful world of dirty, dirty fighting.
Exactly. And he just got up, hopped up on a fence, pulled his pipe out of a pocket, lit it, and was just looking at her lying there, and he's like, you're dead. End of story.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, you see, now I want that to become a phrase now. Taking him out to Queensdale should become a saying for learning how to fight dirty. It has to be now. It sounds too good.
It worked. That's his spot, because there's not a lot of people that would have eyes on them out that way, so it's a good chance for him to just kind of get away from the bullshit and get some of his own frustrations out by beating up on his subordinates.
You want to learn dirty fighting? Well, I'm going to beat the crap out of you for a good 2 hours before I actually start teaching you anything. You think you're learning, but you're not. I'm beating you.
No, that's the whole thing. Whenever someone comes to him with this, he'll sit there and flat out tell him, well, you better understand, this is going to be a hands-on lesson.
Perfect. So I do like that kind of attitude when it comes to criminal characters. I mean, my character myself, the whole reason he got involved in the criminal world was due to sort of arranged fights in certain sort of more shady areas. And it's not really gladiatorium, more like Fight Club style, if anything else. You know, a group of people come together, place a few bets, they get in the ring, you know, used a warehouse or whatever, and they, you know, duke it out for some cash. So I do like that sort of hands-on. It's a very defining part of a character. It's the school of hard knocks method, isn't it?
Exactly. That's his whole mentality. He's a lifelong street rat. He's by his estimation around 40. He can't even remember exactly what his date of birth is. So the way he sees it, he's already beaten the odds, because if you figure for this kind of time period and this kind of setting, someone in that kind of lifestyle would not live long. So he's already beaten the odds. You know, he's in the olden days of, I guess, around the Renaissance period, which I guess you could say this was close to, someone like him would be termed as an upright man. He had a reputation that was known. Generally, you knew if you did business with this guy, if he told you he was going to do a job, he was going to get it done to the best of his ability. And in the event he got caught, you could sit back and rest assured it was never going to come back on you, because he would never talk no matter what they threatened him with. That's the kind of character I based him off of. Yeah.
I like that already. It's a good base, solid basis, and also quite realistic considering the day and age. I mean, considering Kryta is a world that, well, it's not free from disease by any means. On top of that, there's the threat of the Risen, the dragons themselves. On top of that, there's the war, there's bandits, there's raiders. Even in the cities, there's criminals. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's also a lot of law enforcement and army, so it's not horrific, but realistically, people living to a grand old age is probably quite rare. I mean, you could go on an out of character level here and say there's no one old, obviously, because there's no character model for an old person.
Oh yeah, and that's an interesting aspect of the character I've had a couple chances to explore is, backstory-wise, things I've been writing up on our forums. He just prior to the date of the in-game date that game launch would have been, he had just gotten out of jail after a 2-year stint, and he knows he's not a young man anymore. He knows he's not as good as he used to be, and at one point since then, he actually kind of went into a semi-retirement where he was more of just like an advisor to Kerrigan, who is the leader of the Veil. Because they actually have a very interesting relationship where he, from the time she was 9, has been like a father figure in her life. So there's a pseudo father-daughter relationship there. And he realized that after the second or third time it was the second time where he was carried out of a fight, that he needed to take a step back because he was proving to be more of a liability than a benefit in that role. So
because of the old veteran sort of style, I like this. It's definitely a interesting concept. I mean, we're firmly into the guest RP in character background now, so I'm going to keep on this tangent and say, well, already we're learning quite a lot of him in terms of a very sort of jaded, gruff, sort of what's the correct term? Chiseled by the world around him. He definitely seems to be sculpted in terms of his backstory. All this stuff going on has turned him into it's shaped into the man he is today. And it finds me rather reminiscent of a character I once read about. God, I can't remember the book now. It's going to drive me crazy. But basically, it was the path of a criminal, more assassin aligned, however. And basically, he gets quite old and starts becoming sort of very crooked back, that kind of thing. And he always says like one of the worst things that ever happened to him in his career was the fact that he didn't die young. Because it was one of his biggest mistakes in his career, he always said, was because he did so well, he never died. But that means now he has to go through these later years, and he's not in a good shape. He's not the man he used to be anymore, so he can't do everything he used to, which is, I'm kind of sensing from your character slightly.
Yeah, in a sense. Everybody that he knew in his younger days is pretty much either dead or locked away for life for various infractions. This last time he got out of jail, he really kind of had to sit back and see what the ebbs and flows of the streets were. So he got a letter from a guy that he had been doing jobs for just prior to his incarceration saying, hey, show up at this meeting, I got work for you. He went there, and lo and behold, finds out the little girl he helped raise, that he had been in and out of her life for a while, was putting together this group with very bold intentions, and he right there was just like, well, fuck this, I'm in.
Like, oh, my little girl's grown up.
Yeah, that's a great thing, is that we've been able to really kind of play to that in some ways, to the point where her character is now openly referring to him as her father, and he's just kind of like, wait, what?
Wait, what? Wait, who was your mother again? The panic startled.
Yeah, no.
Wait, it wasn't that whore outside of Queensdale, was it?
But yeah,
sun shock.
That's one of the reasons why I chose to make the character older than the average players seem to go for, because it gave me a little more room to explore a few different avenues with him, like, part of him wanting to prove he's still got it. The other part of him saying, yeah, you're not as good as you once were, dude. You might want to slow down a little. So it's interesting because it brings out a very human quality to him, I think.
Yeah, which is good, because when it comes down to it, the main story is all focused about you being the hero. Guild Wars 2, and they all went out of the way to explain that you are the hero. However, in an RP setting, that can be somewhat difficult. You can't be this miracle man that does everything. It's it can be done, I suppose, but it's a case of there's more depth to a character if they have very human problems. And when it comes down to it, getting old is a problem that everyone's character is going to get involved in. I mean, I chose a somewhat young character on the basis just so he had the vigor of youth. I mean, I could have made him a bit older, but it's I think in my case, my character doesn't want to get old. He's living a very sort of burning the candle at both ends, as they say. You know, candle that burns is twice as bright, lasts for half as long. Sort of lifestyle. So hordes, drinking, even he's heavily addicted to drugs. So I don't expect my character to get old. But again, these are human problems. Which I'm getting you definitely seem to understand that these human qualities do lend a lot of depth to a character, which is always lovely to see.
Oh, it's made for some really fun RP where I've had just random people that maybe have been hanging around where our guild used to frequent in Osun a lot, and they were able to ICly put two and two together that this is not a young guy. And I've had people step up just out of nowhere and been like, "Hey, old man, think you can take me?" And it's like, "Yeah, I do."
It's like, you little young ass piece of shit. Yeah, I can take you. He seems like the grizzled veteran type that you just don't mess with for your own good, but you could learn a lot from if you actually just, grit your teeth and actually just bear through it.
Yeah. Well, one of our guild members, he joined up a little over a month and a half ago, I think. That was essentially his introduction, was like him kind of getting in Gruss's face here and there and kind of just being like, Gruss has got this thing where if someone like that steps to him, he'll just sit there and be like, it's a bad idea for young puppies to go growling at an old wolf. Right. And this guy was just sitting there, he's like, yeah, but the young pup can still tear the old wolf's throat out. And it was just like, oh, I like this guy. I want to fight you now.
Oh yeah, we're fighting right now. And rip your shirt off, just go in.
There was like this long period of just random interactions between him and Gruss and him and other guild members, and eventually he apped and he got in, and immediately there was the adversarial relationship kicking in, where they're just like, they would actually emote at each other. They were just staring at each other, figuring out a way to kill the other.
I love that. This is what I mean. Human qualities, these problems and positives, all blended together, and all different characters always make for a great environment. I mean, if everyone was playing the hero, it would be a very, very dull roleplay world we live in. But, everyone's got such varied characters such as yourself, and it just makes everything that much richer.
Oh, yeah. That's one thing I love about my guildies, is everybody is a very unique personality. IC and OOC, everybody has a unique twist to their characters from what I'm seeing, and it gives me a lot of different things to play off of, because I'm not dealing with just carbon copies of the same thing over and over and over, and it's helped me grow as a role player because it helped me explore different sides of my character.
Oh, it's a great aspect. I mean, I've definitely changed as due to direct contact with the community at large.
Oh yeah, and even outside the guild, ICly, Gruss has made some, what many people would consider unusual friendships. One player by the name of Anastasia Ruin was called the Heel Gruss after his second you done got fucked up moment. And he ran into her a couple days later after he'd kind of recovered from the trauma and stuff and was walking around, and they got to talking. And she came under the impression that he was a sweet old man who took in orphaned street urchins, and just thought he was just the greatest thing. And I didn't even play to it. I was just playing the character as I normally would, and she kept going with it. And later on, ICly, she kind of let on. She knew he wasn't the nice guy she thought he was, or she let him think she was. And that's been a fun thing to RP out, is the little subtleties between me and her character. And it's just like, hey, she's just kind of like, hey, I know you're not who you are thinking I think you are. And he's just like, I never tried to get you to. You just assumed, honey.
Just lying. I have this over the top image in my mind now of this like old man, shirtless, knife in his stomach or whatever, and just like the teardrop tattoos like "gangster for life" written on it. She's like, "Oh, look at this sweet old man." Sorry, it's my immediate thought.
In a roundabout kind of way, that does work. I mean, they know better now, and during the early stages of that ICC relationship, it was hilarious to the point where I actually wanted to just shatter that notion of her. So I actually worked out with a guildie and an alt to pickpocket Gruss while he was talking to her, and he chased this person's alt down, got his money back, and then proceeded to pistol whip the living shit out of her. Not because she tried to steal from him, but because she was stupid about doing it. She was just blatantly sloppy and just unskilled, so he just beats on her. And Anna's just like, "Oh, brave Mr. Grusson." And it's like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, stop it already."
Yes, I do like those characters can see the saints in people. I love that. You chase down this obvious bandit. This is like actually just this poor pickpocket you just beat to near death for being sloppy. That's the point. I do love that about those sort of characters. And now we're quite in depth into your character background. I mean, is there anything else you want to address before we move on to you on an out of character level?
No, essentially I think I've covered everything for that. He's really just a pissed off old man who enjoys his tobacco pipe and his whiskey and isn't above beating the shit out of you if you fucking look at him the wrong way.
Huh.
Essentially, Clint Eastwood from Gran Torino. He's the guy who would tell you to get off his fucking lawn.
Awesome. So moving on then, you as a role player, what is your actual out-of-character background history? Because we've had absolutely all sorts on here, from Second Life to WoW to everything. I think basically has been covered near enough. So what's your background in all this?
Well, obviously I'm in my mid-30s, and I started tabletop RP with some friends in high school.
Booyah,
and we started
tabletop.
with Dungeons and Dragons, didn't really dig it, and we found this wonderful system called Rollmaster. I don't even know if it's around anymore, but it was just this very intricate, detailed system. I mean, you think D&D has a lot of books. Rollmaster, oh my god, entire libraries. And that was the system we played, and we just ran with that for years. I actually played the same PC for 3 straight years in that game, to the point where my DM, after the first year and a half, made it his goal with every campaign to try and kill this character because he just wouldn't die.
God damn it. I mean, listeners rather, you wouldn't have seen that, but when he mentioned Rollmaster, I actually shivered. It's a bit notorious, I got to admit. And like I said, like I was about to say, I always have I'm always holding the candle for tabletop because it has brought so many people into the roleplay world, and hell, it brought me into it, and I love it. So you've already got my full support on those grounds.
As far as MMORP, I really didn't get into that until a little over a year ago. I had been in a raiding guild in WoW and did that for a while and just got bored with it. And I started looking around for something else. I was thinking about moving over to a PvP server, and then I saw the RP servers, and I moved over to Wormrest Accord.
Great.
And rolled a new character there because I'm a cheap bastard. I don't like spending money unnecessarily, so I wasn't going to move my 85 over. So I rolled a new character over there, and just kind of wandered around and kind of got a feel for how people were doing it. And then I really started looking for guilds. And I came across this guild website for a Blood Elf Noble House guild called House Thalarin. And they had a level requirement, which at the time I think was level 25, and I was only like level 10. And after looking at their website and reading the stuff that was open to the casual viewer and not just the members, I became really impressed with what they were doing. So I pretty much stalked their website for the next few weeks while I was leveling, and then one day I found one of the GMs just kind of sitting in the middle of one part of the city, And I sent her a quick tell, just like, hey, I have some questions about your guild, blah, 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 blah. Well, it turns out this ended up being Kerrigan, who is the GM for Veil. And this is how I met her. And, we talked for a little bit in tells, and I was 5 levels off, and I'm like, I'm going to push through, dungeons, battlegrounds, anything I can to get XP, and then I'll app. And she's like, great. So I apped, and my character started off as just a house guard. He was just this low-level nobody that didn't have shit going for him, really, icily. And I just bullied my way into their RP. If there was a conversation going on and I saw an opening where I took it, and I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and then I started developing a plot line for my character that would get other guildies involved and stuff like that. Her and the other GM, who is our guildie here in Veil, sorry, lost my train of thought for a second. V decided they liked what they were seeing, so they made me an officer, and then eventually bumped me up to the third co-GM. And then when the first Guild Wars beta came out, they came over here to try it, and were telling me that they loved it. So we started putting together ideas for a guild here, and they decided that they were going to bring Veil in. Around that time, the WoW guild fell apart, so everything I had going on in an in-character level pretty much was dead in the water. So I really took that time. I was dabbling in Lotro for a little bit just to see how that was, City of Heroes and stuff like that. Didn't get into any RP there, but I was just dicking around in game. But I really took the time to start crafting who my character was going to be, and just been running with it ever since.
So I just love everything about that. I mean, especially with the fact that a lot of communities as groups came over to this. I mean, myself, I was part of a few WoW guilds. I never really actually got too deep into it, but have to admit, the number of times I've heard, I mean, not just people on here, but outside the community, just chatting with people, the number of groups I found that are actually from other games, and just like migrated a whole group because they just loved the setting or they just wanted to try something new. And the fact that, this was one of the proper first pay and play, it was one-time purchase, and then that's it. It's, that's attracted a lot of people. And so it's great to see the community has actually migrated from other places, and it's really it's shown for you, definitely. I mean, you've developed a lot, obviously, getting into this and learning to play, and I followed a very similar path. I mean, I only bumped into groups like the Ashenfall, the Broken Rats, and things like that because I was basically just looking with a group with a friend who I role-played with a lot, and we basically bumped into them and became part of the community, and I love it here. Reason I'm doing the whole show. So that's impressive, and I love the fact that you just literally bumped into someone and that actually turned into a lasting thing in future RP. Small world, as they say. I like that. That's a nice little touch.
Oh yeah, we've become really good friends, OOCly. There's really nothing that between the three of us we can't talk about, and it's been just a amazing experience for me, and I really don't know what I would do without them at this point.
Good. I like that. People that sort of close and everything. It makes for good RP, because if you know people on an out of character level, then you can actually plan for really good stuff and just know each other's characters and get. It's a great premise, and so
yeah, it's really helped with the Gruss Kerrigan aspect of of the relationship, because we do know each other very well, OOCly now, and we're able to kind of play off of that. And it kind of reflects into our RP that there is a closeness between the characters ICly that they don't have with anybody else in the guild, because we don't have that with everybody else in the guild.
Oh yeah, so I love it.
It's really been just a really fun ride with her and V, and the things we can come up with. Me and V, our characters. All of our characters, my character has history with both of them separately. So I'm able to play off stuff with Kerrigan that, I can just randomly say to her in character, hey, you remember Johnny the dog? Yeah, well, he got hung yesterday. And she'll be like, oh, man, that sucks. He was actually pretty good. And then I can look at me and be like, hey, remember that job we pulled like 3 years ago where you bumped in that suit of armor and got your foot stuck in the helmet?
I love that. That's
And
sort of
they were just instantly rolling with it. So there is just a very good rapport between us, and that just makes so many other things just fall into place.
this is what I love when people actually get to that level of sort of connecting with the characters. That kind of thing can be absolutely brilliant. I saw a lot of it in City of Heroes. Rest in peace, City of Heroes. We'll always remember you. Because that was a great for that kind of relationship. So, because I was playing with a character that I was relatively new, and so we went for this sort of demon and demonologist sort of relationship. So they were bound to me. That was part of the character, and so, however, that meant the person had leeway to be completely sarcastic, and we went absolutely nuts with the sort of odd references to the past, like, "Oh God, I remember when you did this, that, and the other." And seeing it again is wonderful, utterly wonderful, and. Now that we've actually addressed inadvertently most of the other questions, I'm going to move on a little bit so we can get to the main bulk of the show and say, so any particular favorite RP moments then?
Oh God, there's so many.
Well, go ahead. I've extended the time of the regular shows now to like an hour and a half because an hour is not enough.
Mainly it's been just like a lot of little things. I tend to have a fairly quick wit on some stuff, and that's produced some interesting moments. There was one in the beta where me and V were still testing out who our characters were, and we hadn't established any backstory for him or anything yet. And there was I forget what the conversation was, but there was a moment where Gruss kind of got pissy at V. And V just kind of looks at him and is like, oh, come on, why you gotta be like that? I thought we were friends. And Gruss just looks at him in deadpans. Friendship would imply that I like you. I don't.
That's... I like those sort of moments where you just... Because, like, in character, you're like, oh, that was mean. But out of character, it's like, oh, damn. You're doing the whole sort of, like, reaching back from the screen, laughing.
Exactly. And that was one that I just was like, wow, I hope I get the chance to use that again. And then there was a moment where Mathrian Gothmir and Winry Gothmir had just joined our guild, and Gruss and Mathrian have some icy history where they've been brawling with each other once before. And so Gruss automatically, the minute they came into the fold, was like, I want to kill you. I'm going to kill you one day. Make no mistake about it. And this went on for a while, and finally Mathrian said, we're on the same side now. We need to learn how to be friends. And I immediately said, friendship implies that I like you. I don't.
Just always in the background.
And then I hop over, I got my RP tab and my guild chat tab, so I hop over to guild chat and I'm like, yes, it took 4 months, but I finally used it again.
I love that. I mean, I love the sort of like build-up moments when you want to use a certain line, and this is why I've been talking to the Seraph a lot, actually, because leader for the Falcon Company, for example, has been chatting to me, and due to the nature of the RP we're doing, I can imagine I'm going to be arrested at some point. So we're already storing up just good lines just in case, because we've both got our own sort of one-liners we'd like to use at some point. So you're just loading them up and waiting for the opportunity. It's like, you just
you'll never take me alive, copper. She?
Well, something along those lines. Sounds about right. I mean, I know. At the one point,
some of my favorites is Gruss Iceely is a horrible racist when it comes to Sylvari. He just does not like them.
Rare, because everyone who seems to play the... I've seen a lot of dislike towards Char, not a lot towards Sylvari, I've got to admit.
He actually has no problem with the Char. He actually kind of respects them because they're a very no-nonsense type of people, whereas the Sylvari, in his mind, are just ridiculous. And
also,
there was they're just... He refers to them as walking rose bushes. He doesn't... To him, they seem very unnatural, despite the fact they're probably more in tune with nature than a human would be. But Gruss has a very small microcosm world. Anything happening outside Divinity's reach, he doesn't give two shits about. He doesn't care about the Elder Dragons. He doesn't care about the wars. Yes, he knows these things are going on, but they don't directly affect his world. So He doesn't, he's not really one to expand his borders much. So now that you've had this huge influx of Norn, which he has no problem. Norn, again, a no-nonsense type of people, so he can understand them a little easier. And Asura, he just doesn't know what to make of them. But Sylvari bugged the living shit out of him for some reason. And whenever one starts getting on his nerves, he'll start just spouting off all kinds of things like, you know, there was one who put their hands on a friend of his, and he looked right at them and said, "If you don't take your hands off her, I'm going to cut them off and use them for kindling for a cook fire." And just he'll make like all these like ridiculous gardening references as insults to them. He'll call them shrub, rosebush. He just will talk down to them as angrily and mean as he can, and generally it usually starts going into a lot of landscaping terms.
Oh god, I can just sorry, terrible mental images with that. Just all the amount of gardening jokes you can go with.
Well, that one night where the one Sylvari put their hands on his friend, I was actually on a roll, and I was just shooting them out left and right, and for the life of me, I can't remember 99% of them, but I was just rolling and rolling and rolling, and I'm getting tells from the person who played his friend, who was like, "I'm in tears. Stop! I can't breathe."
So that's a great, the sort of little moments like that. I mean, to keep it to schedule though, I'm gonna have to push us a little bit along here. So I think it's safe to say at this stage you are not a light or medium RP. You seem quite heavy. I mean,
If you had asked me that a year and a half ago, I would have said medium, but it's like from the minute I log in to the minute I log out, doing something icily, be it barking orders at people or threatening innocent walking plants or just standing around scratching my beard and drinking whiskey.
gotta love it. So on that note, let's move on to the main bulk of the show now. Now we've definitely settled in, got to know who you are and such. And so, the Veil. What is it? I mean,
Yes.
I've role played within certain criminal circles as my character dictates, and I even got mentioned. I've been talking with law enforcement. It's a name that's been tossed around, but I don't actually know anything about. So I'm kind of the ideal person to host this right now because my ignorance is perfect. Because just like me, the listeners can finally understand on a basic level what it's the Veil. So please go to town. This is your chance to shine, pimp them up, show them what you got.
All right, well, to kind of get into the history of it, the Veil was actually a guild that formed in Lord of the Rings Online. Kerrigan was one of the original GMs of that.
Ooh, yeah.
And they played on the Landoval server, I think it was. I'm trying to pull up the message she sent me with that kind of stuff right now. But they had a reputation of just being the bullies on the block in the Bree and Combe areas, I believe it was, where they were constantly plotting something, pulling a job, brawling with the law enforcement. They were just in your face, hi, we're criminals, come at us types. And when we came over to Guild Wars, that's what she wanted to start trying to reflect. And we all sat down and talked about it and figured out, was there going to be a longer history? Was this going to be something that ideally we were just starting up? And that's the way we went. Was her character had decided she wanted to, in a sense, kind of be queen of the underworld, and she needed the people around her to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So she hired V, who then scouted out some people, or, as in Gross's case, went to people he knew could get jobs done and recruited them. And when launch hit, we hit the ground running. we started, and one thing that we still do to this day is we'll have members party 2, 3 up in a group, and they'll go walk around the city, find someone by themselves, shoot them an OOC tell, and work out a mugging or something.
I do like that, the out of character bit, yeah, because unfortunately, just jumping right to it in character, it can lead to, well, like I said, there are good elements and there are bad elements in any game, but I do love the aspect of the out of character tell, because a lot of people I've met so far are like, oh god, if they just, just give me a heads up about a character, I'll totally work something out, which, obviously you guys have been doing, which is good.
Yeah, it's not even like, hey, can we mug you? It's, hey, can we try to mug you? We always give them the option to decline it altogether and give them the choice to fight back. And, it's been a lot of fun for the membership. We have some members that we didn't think were going to be into that kind of thing that are now like, hey, let's go do a mugging.
See, I like that, because there's different levels of crime, and one of the reasons why I'm so interested in the Rodents and Rats chapter is because, I mean, since joining this community, I have met pickpockets, street urchins, masterminds, is the other way to describe some, epic, like, sorcerers, powers, that kind of thing. Well, I say sorcerers, but mesmers and necromancers. I'm just using sorcerer as a quick go-by, but, basically, I love the street level crime more than anything else, just because it gives a lot more atmosphere where muggings occur and stuff like that. Because that's why I love Orient, because it's going to be a street gang. I like the idea of street level crime like this. It always intrigues me just because it's so much richer, and also it's a good middle ground. Because if it was just street urchins and masterminds, there's no middle ground, is there?
Yeah, well, we kind of dabble in a little bit of everything. I mean, we'll go out and do mugging. We'll do the street level beat you up and take your money thing. We broker information. We pull high-end jobs. You had Erica from High Society on here not too long ago. We were the guild that robbed them at one of their parties.
Yes, I remember hearing about that. It's one of the first times I ever heard of the guild.
Yep. So, we're out there, and we definitely want the community to know we're out there. That if they got something and they want to throw a little spice into it, hit us up. We'll work something out, and we'll come spoil your good time and have a good time doing it.
Brilliant.
But we've kind of gone through some fluctuations in membership, where at one point we were up to 30. We're now hovering around 20, which we think is a good number, because right now, as far as officers go, it's just myself and Kerrigan co-leading the guild, and we're able to break people off into small groups and have them go watch this person, go intimidate that person, go kick the crap out of that person, and it's really one of the fun aspects of it, is that because we're not pigeonholing ourselves as just, say, a street gang, or just like that shadowy group that's gathering all the intel. We find a lot of leeway as to which directions we can move in.
Well, it's different standards when it comes to actual criminal elements, I'd say. I mean, again, you're definitely showing yourself to be a group that's more larger. It's not just, like you said, it's not just your common street thugs. I mean, nothing wrong with playing a bunch of street thugs. That's what I'm going to be doing. But when it comes down to it, the larger organizations are a lot more fun, just because the options. Like you say, don't pigeonhole yourself entirely, but there's an option to do certain things if you want to. I mean, you join it and you think, oh, I could try this, I could try that. Oh, why not? You know what I mean? It's lovely to have a selection at the end of the day.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it boils down to the members we have. They're the ones who are getting out there and making things happen, and without them, essentially all we are just two people with a tag over our characters' heads. We recently decided we're going to go in a meaner, grittier kind of direction, because we found ourselves kind of falling into a level of complacency, and it was right after the holidays. And, the holidays is always a lull in activity because people got so many things going on, but that kind of extended a little beyond that, and we were like, okay, we need to get back out there and start doing something. So we decided we were going to take a more hardline approach to things, icily, and we knocked everybody in the guild down to the lowest rank and said, okay, 2-week trial period, figure out how your character is going to fit into this new direction. If you know they're not, let us know. And if you need help finding a new home, we will find you a new home. but we want to just kind of wipe the slate clean with everyone and start over. And we had a couple of people we didn't think were going to make it that turned around and just embraced the idea and went balls out to make it happen. And we had some people that had been with us for a while that opted out of it, and we had some people that we thought were going to fail miserably that didn't do as well as we'd hoped they were, but still managed to get to a point where it's like, okay, you need a little work, but you're still in. So, I mean, and since then we've just been kind of rolling with it and having a lot of fun.
Gotta say, love it right off the bat. There, I mean, it's great to see that level of sort of group direction and understanding, and especially helping each other out. See, we're going to take it in this direction. At the end of the day, I mean, you joined when we were this, but we changed the direction, so you gave them the option. I like that. It's different. That's showing group awareness, which is always good because there's always that fear of if you're running a guild that you don't quite recall. If you've been running a guild for so long, some people fall into the trap of not quite remembering what it's like to be a member. I mean, it's a very general thing to say, but it bears some just common sense when it comes down to it. That being aware of your group is always an important thing, and you clearly are sticking to that, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah, well, when we first started up, I took an officer role to help get the guild off the ground, but I made it clear, I wanted to just kind of go back to being a member. But as plans are, plans will go awry, and I've found myself back in that role again, but I'm feeling very enthusiastic about it because we have a very great core membership. These are great players, great RPers, and everything we've thrown at them as far as we're going to move in this direction, we're going to start this plot, they have embraced and just tackled with every ounce of creativity they could think of.
I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, I'm personally behind the more gritty side of things because I'm playing a thug, basically, so there's nothing ever immensely fancy. I mean, I've seen some great RP about people that are incredible swordsmen, even some people that do torture stuff and things like that. I mean, of course, out of character limits are always respected in such regards, but, it's a lot of people seem to have very elaborate things, but personally, what I've found rather funny is people's reaction to my character's more simple approach of hit it in the leg so it falls down, then just hit it with a club. It's, the more grittiness can be a lot of fun when it comes down to it, because there's the unexpected and the frank efficiency of it. It's like, I could do this elaborate maneuver, doing my footwork, which means them topple over. Or you could just, smack them really hard in the knee. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Definitely can understand that. My character is probably very much of the same mind in that respect. He prefers the more direct forward approach, whereas Kerrigan is more of the subtle one, the networker. She's the one who's garnered a lot of our contacts, be it through her family, because I know she's a cousin of the Van Shivers, so I know she interacts with Toxa quite a bit, and she's got a lot of contacts in the noble world, being the fact she's from a noble family herself, and she's married into a noble family. So she's able to handle more of the high-end stuff, and I tend to handle more of the so-and-so didn't pay us our money, let's go fuck them up stuff.
Oddly, I can see our characters getting along in that regard, because that's basically my character. It doesn't deal with any of the high noble stuff. It's like, I'm a part of a street gang, so okay, this person owes us money, so what are you all standing around here for? Why is this person not being up?
Yeah, and that right there is, I think, the bookends of what our guild is pretty much sandwiched between who our two characters are, because we've got people coming from all walks of life, at least in the human society. We're kind of human-centric. If we found the right reason to bring, say, an Asura in as like a mad scientist who's going to make us all kinds of nifty little gadgets that are going to go boom and hurt people we don't like, we're all for that if we can find a way to make it work.
I do love that when you play around with it, and again, the lore's quite rich, and in some cases, I wouldn't say open-ended, but is more well. And as for turning up and being able to make sophisticated gadgets is not a stretch of the imagination. You know, it's like, yeah, they made portals that can teleport. They made the bloody Stargates. Of course, they could make that. You know.
Yeah, there's that. But generally it's like, ooh, Gruss is kind of like a Suratech. I don't know.
Might go off in my face. First time I said that in negative light, but do carry on. Had to get one dirty joke out there during the podcast. I do have a reputation to uphold.
Oh, absolutely.
But moving on from that, just to keep these questions fresh. So at this stage, I mean, we've interviewed a fair few guilds and communities as a whole so far. I mean, for example, the Ministry, they did specify themselves as more of a community tool than an actual guild. You know, they're a group of people. They just help organize. So what would you actually call yourself then? Are you a more actual standing entity, or would you say a more community?
We are definitely a guild. We are definitely a standing entity unto ourselves. We do have our interactions outside the guild that have a lot of different flavors to it, but essentially when it comes down to it, we're trying to foster a very friendly, almost family type environment with each other, and it's working real well. Our event is always full, and we've got a lot of great stuff going on our forums. ICly, everybody knows that they have a role to play, and they play to that strength. We have people that are constantly looking to expand their horizons ICly within the guild, and we do everything we can to make that happen. But at the same time, we're also, the way me and Kerrigan see it, we're a tool here for the community. We're a tool to be the bad guys for the good guys to go after. We're the bad guys that will kidnap the rich nobleman's daughter to extort the ransom. We're here to give flavor to other people's roleplay.
Yeah, again, you can't have the robbers without the cops. Cops without the robbers. That's what it boils down to. I mean, this is the whole reason I've been trying to do a little collab with the cross guild contracts with my own projects and things like that, just because on the grounds of I want someone to play off of. I need.
Yeah. Well, we recently, last Sunday, and I'm sure you heard about this, the big fight in the Ocean District. We were the targets of that, and it actually spread out into other guilds and other people that weren't initially involved in what happened into their own RP, and
ripples in the pond. It's a great thing about the community.
And for me, that's a very exciting thing, because something that we were a part of has now affected this person's character, that person's character, that person's character, and they might have just been standing downstairs having a drink.
You gotta love the aspects of that. This is the cause and effect.
The end result of that for us is we've actually been, as a guild, pushed out of Divinity's reach. We're no longer an entity there. So we're now RPing the licking our wounds, plotting our return thing. So,
because as far as I understand it, I mean, you came tearing through Rookton to get to the Ebonport portal, is from what rumours I've heard, in character.
Yep, we, an ally of ours, ICly put himself out there, called up some of his people to pretty much form a shield wall around those of us that were still stuck in Osan, are wounded and a couple of stragglers, to get us out. And, that has now affected his RP, which, again, very cool, because, it's just like all these little things that spin off of one thing that end up becoming this huge thing. ICly, just last night, our guild leader got arrested. She's under house arrest now. So now we're like, crap, we're trying to find out when's the trial, should we try and stage a jailbreak? Do we just sit tight and try and ride it out? So, we've got all these things going on, and trying to still kind of figure out, okay, how can we keep business going? How can we keep earning? How can we keep the coin flowing in? Kind of mentality.
Because I gotta love all this. I mean, I assume in the ministry are the ones with the trial behind this.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Because I just want to state this for anyone listening, really. Like, okay, I've presented to you during the course of these podcasts these different people all saying the different skill sets of all the things that they represent. Now, this guild openly presenting themselves as the bad guys have, in turn, there's been an element have happened, things have happened, now one has been caught, and they are on trial. You don't get this in a lot of communities, ladies and gentlemen. This is a fantastic tool here. These two have gone into, intertwined in terms of RP, and now this is happening. It's a fantastic thing, and I cannot support it enough. I mean, for goodness sake, they're actually having a trial for this. What's not to love? This entire criminal empire is here, and now they're RPing what their reactions are. You gotta love it, ladies and gentlemen. So, like I said, I'm singing the praise of all this going on right now.
Oh, it's creatively, it's an amazing time for us because we were actually working on something like this with Anasis. As I mentioned before, she had come to us saying, hey, if I win this election, this is what I'm going to try. It's like, okay. And the night before this event that forced us out, the one that actually forced us out, kicked off. It was kind of an impromptu thing. I'm not really going to get into too much detail about it. It was just kind of like, oh, wow, this is happening type thing.
Oh, damn.
Gruss, and I'd worked this out with the player. One of Anastas's closest confidants was out in Queensdale by himself, so Gruss got two of his attack dogs together, and we jumped him, beat the crap out of him, stabbed him a couple times, and cut off his pinky finger as a warning to her to back off.
Good old-fashioned intimidation.
And, we still have that still needs to play out to its full extent because they still don't know. They suspect who did it, they just don't have any proof.
Yeah, and
so
being part of the criminal world, you can't exactly go to the sheriff about it.
Exactly. The Ministry Guard is looking into it, and if it ever gets back to us, that's a whole nother pile of crap we're going to have to be like, hey, it's the coppers, run!
They can get those one-liners ready, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Without the one-liners, it's not worth it.
Oh, of course not. I mean, goodness sake, one of my proudest moments is just in a actual serious conversation. Someone was saying my character's overreacting to something, and he's like, I brought you these papers, it should clear it up. My character's instant reaction was like, oh, that's fantastic, everything's solved. Oh, wait, there's no hooker sucking my dick right now, so I'm assuming it's still my fucking problem. And I was like, it's a very gruff line coming from this character. It's a very dandyish, very flamboyant, and this sudden gruffness, and I was so proud just because the one-liner really just summed up the moment of his frustration. It's like, and it actually was part of the thing that happened. Again, I felt the ripples from the event in Osen because it's led to other people as RP. I mean, you tore through Rookton during it, from what I heard. And so my character's heard about it because he lives there. So all of a sudden, all this chaos, he's like, what the hell? All of a sudden these people come running past. It's like, what?
Oh, yeah. We had a couple people that did escape, and they did tear through different parts of the city trying to get out. So, I mean, the event was witnessed by a lot of people, and the ripples just seem to keep rolling in from an IC standpoint.
Which is great. Ripples in the pond, which is a great part of the Guild community. And moving on, then, what is the future scope for your characters and/or community? Guild in your case.
Right now it's from an IC standpoint, things are looking kind of bleak. We've been pushed out of our power base. Our leader is under arrest and awaiting trial. Gruss has had to step up and start taking on that responsibility as well, which is putting some stress on him. And it's also playing out into our membership's personal storylines. And to be fair, it's not just us that have been that are involved in this. Our, I guess you could say, sister guild, the Stygian Spectre, also got caught up in this, and they're in hiding with us right now. And we have a lot of personal relationships between guilds right now. So we're all just kind of hunkered down together, and then, you're starting to see the IC effects of what happened playing out in people's personal stories. So It's a very interesting time right now. It's kind of more we're sitting back. We've got people sneaking in and out of the city to gather intel and kind of gauge the environment right now and trying to figure out what's the next move.
Quite the escapade, to say the least. So, moving on to that, I mean, what is it that you're actually precisely hoping to achieve with your guild as a whole? And after we've answered that, we'll move on to some other questions and start to wrap things up. So, I mean, like I said, anything you really want to say about your group, go ahead. So, just giving you a direction to go in.
Pretty much, just want people to know, hey, we're here. If you're a good guy, we're the bad guys. So, if you got an idea of something you might want to do with us, feel free to whisper us in game or look us up on Engine and send a PM. And, we're always willing to work things out. We're big believers in OOC communication. We're also big believers in the IC action and consequence. Everything that we do is going to have a reaction, and sooner or later there's going to be a payback for it. So, we definitely want to kind of work with people and get more stories going, get more things happening for our members. Our big thing is we're here to have fun, but we also understand the people that we RP with on the other side. We want them to have fun with it too. So, and that's where the OOC communication part comes in, is that way you can work out, the points you want to hit and freeform the rest and just kind of really make it an enjoyable experience for everyone. ICly, we may be down, but we're not out, and we are definitely looking to worm our way back into the city and reclaim what's ours.
Woo, get my turf, bro. Gotta love it. So, on that note, I mean, you've mentioned this before. I mean, as I put on the little agenda here, guild conflict. I mean, you've definitely come into conflict with a number of parties, as you've talked to them out character and said, "Do you want to be the bad guys?" So, how does that usually play out? I mean, you seem to offer a lot between spying and thuggery. I mean, so what would you say? How would it play out? Would it be army versus army or spy v spy? I mean, what kind of thing would you expect from a conflict or an out of character agreement between two groups to say, okay, let's duke it out for a bit?
Depending on the size of the other group, if they were smaller or around the same size as us, it could definitely be, I guess you would say, an army versus army style kind of fight. But if it's somebody larger than us, we would definitely play more to the spying aspect and probably incorporate hit and run tactics like, hey, so-and-so's over by the fountain in Rurikton and they're by themselves. And two of us suddenly come running up, stick some knives in them, and just keep running type thing. The hit and run tactics.
So it's very much Thug Street style. I like that because it's accurate upping.
As a guild ICly, we know our limitations. We know we couldn't take on an 80-member freaking guild in a head-on fight. So we would have to pick the battleground very carefully and pick it to tactics that are going to work for us. Eventually, there would have to be some kind of resolution of it, but, those are things, again, that I'm a big believer in. If you're going to do something like that, that's, again, going back to OOC communication. You establish the kickoff and the end game first. The end game being what is going to be the final result. The kickoff being what's going to start this whole thing. Those are the two things you want to establish first, and then generally what I like to do is establish what's the end game first, and then work backwards with the person, OOCly, and then say, okay, this is what we're looking to do, what are you looking to do, find a way to marry the two, and then backtrack to what's going to start it.
It's good policy.
Some people consider that an unusual approach, but I think that that's my personal opinion, is it works, and that way everybody's on the same page, and everybody's going to have their chance to shine. We definitely want to have our opportunity to prove that we are the bullies on the block, and the good guys are going to want to prove that they're the knights in shining armor, and we're more than willing to give them that chance. It's all about give and take. You got to be able to take your hits, and you got to be able to give them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like I say, I agree with you totally. I mean, like I say, I'm building a Roach and Rats project. I've been trying to get that for a while, and one of the big things about it is that, okay, I'm playing a gang leader. Now, I expect to get beaten up by, like, Seraph if I've done something wrong, get dragged off, even go on trial, end up getting, may even get imprisoned. Hell, if I really mess up, I could get executed. On top of that, there's always the consequences of, hell, for all I know, there could be a dirty cop who may just beat the crap out of me because he knows I did it, sort of thing. But at the same time, it gives me a chance to roleplay as the criminal, but also gives the law enforcement a chance to actually enforce something. Because unfortunately, as I've addressed in other podcasts, it's hard to play the more good-aligned sides because it's somewhat rare to find a solid group of law enforcement who everyone recognizes, because unfortunately some people have different tastes and therefore just choose not to acknowledge them, which is understandable. But once you get more vocal about it and maybe even abusive, it's like, there's no need for that. You can just say, out of character, that, yeah, sorry, I don't agree with this particular ethic of RP or whatever. But it's just, this is great. It encourages people to talk in an out of character level and say, hey, you're a shining knight, I'm a bad guy, want to earn that shining knight title. It's just great for the community at large, and just, it's more reason to RP. What's not to love?
Oh yeah, we definitely recognize the Ministry Guard and Seraph Falcon Company as the law, and we will RP as such. And I know that they both have policies of, if they're going to try to arrest a character, that it's got to be that they're going to have that OOC moment where they will ask, hey, is it alright if we arrest your character? And a lot of us will, it's a fifth. I would say, trying to thought again. We again, it goes back to action and consequence. If I'm sitting there pistol whipping the crap out of Mary the bread maker, and Thomas Cyril walks up and is like, hey, you're under arrest, and he OOC'ly shoots me that tell saying, is it okay if I arrest your character? It's like, well, you just called me red-handed, man. I'm going to fight you. But yeah, you can arrest me.
Gotta love that at the end of the day. That's sort of out of character, in character, consequences and actions thing. It's like, you look around, you're being realistic. I mean, hell, I'm going to go out of my way to avoid the Seraph and the like, because it's like, I don't want to be arrested in character. I'm like, hell no. I will be arrested eventually. It'll be fun RP, but, if they catch me red-handed, I'm going to be like, oh crap, I'm, next minute, don't tase me, bro. It's around the corner.
God help us if Gabriel and Gruss are sharing a cell. That's all I'm going to say.
I can land it two ways. One of them is sexual. That's all I'm going to say.
Make it that 3 ways then, because Gruss will snap someone's neck.
That's just funny. I mean, if they ever end up in the same cell, it'd be quite funny to just find them chatting or something. Come back. Where did you get the booze from? We have no idea.
Oh, if there's a way to find booze, Gruss will find it.
Right. So we have to make a thing of that one day. See if we end up sharing a cell. That could be funny. But so, I mean, is there anything else you want to really go into for the last 10 minutes? Absolutely anything at all. So it can be anything about the group or just the community at large. Anything. We can have a good chat and have some fun with this.
Generally, this is coming from WoW, of all places, directly here. I've been very impressed with the community. It's been very involved. The 2RP site, they do good work over there, keeping people up to date on what's going on and things like that. I love the fact that the Crichton Ministry is up and running, and they're very aware that not everybody's going to recognize them from an IC standpoint, and they're cool with that. And at the same time, I joined their website and I look at it every day, and just the amount of transparency that they're showing on an IC and OOC level is amazing, and I think that's why they're going to succeed very well.
Because it comes down to, I mean, as they've been on here, as I did the Ministry Madness special, all about the dual, the Ministry and the Guard, and I found them very open about it. And even the websites, you can go on there and you can see their case files and other stuff. Some stuff's private because it's stuff only meant for the people being arrested. It's their RP. But the other fact, they're very open. There's a list of things about a join and stuff. It's, again, a community tool which you've clearly embraced as well as many of us have.
Oh yeah, I love it. I logged on there late Saturday night last week, and almost immediately I saw a post about the assault we perpetrated on Anastas's Silvari friend, where we cut his finger off, and I'm like, well, that didn't take him long.
Everyone, man.
No, them, and I also love what the Crichton Herald is doing.
Oh yes, I
They're
love them
very
too.
on top of what they do. They have a great look, a very slick presentation. And it was actually funny because they did cover the quote unquote gang war in Osan.
Hmm.
And
Reddit with our morning coffee.
one of the things about our guild was we didn't ICly use the name Veil right off the bat. We kind of kept that back, and it's because if you look at the definition of a veil, it's something that obscures, it's something that disguises, it's something that hides. We've been referred to as the Ocean Thieves, we've been referred to as the Flock, and we've been referred to as the Veil. Now, if you don't know, if you're not in the know, you could think that those are three different groups operating out of Osan. So if
Well,
somebody's thinking that they're going to come at one of them, they're going to stop for a minute and sit there and be like, wait, is that three different entities or is that one group? You know, it's a great smoke and mirrors tool that we utilized right off the bat. And when people, I Sealy would say the Veil very early on in the game, you know, we tried to, you know, we would just shoot them an out of character tell and just be like, you know, we've never used that name, I Sealy, you know. And it wasn't like, hey, you can't say that. It was just more of like, you know, hey, for future reference. Some people would take it well, some people wouldn't. And eventually it got to the point where it's like, okay, we need to let this name get out just for our own sanity. But,
yeah.
you know, so with those three different names, we've been able to like kind of dodge and weave a lot of stuff because they're looking for a group called one thing, and we're like, no, we're these people. See you later.
I know nothing of this. Flock and slowly walk away.
Yeah, but they actually and Kerrigan Iceely is referred to internally as the Raven, hence the whole flock thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because I was reading the Crichton Herald's initial report on the gang war in Osan, and they were like, there was a fight between two gangs, the Flock and the Raven, and I'm like, oh god, it's working beautifully. And I actually made a mention in their shoutbacks. I'm like, I got shot and stabbed, and you get the names wrong. Good work. Just kidding, guys. You could. And I actually got an OC mail from the reporter who did that, and she's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, are you kidding? It was hilarious.
I mean, shout out to the Crichton Herald. I mean, thanks to the previous episode, I'm actually in talks with them right now, and they will be appearing in a future cast, I can assure you all, and I'm looking forward incredibly to get to know them, because of these people, both in character and out of character, I find most of my mornings is me sitting down with a drink and just reading the paper.
I know, right?
Coffee. I usually drink it with a coffee here in the morning, but my characters usually sat there with a bottle of wine first thing, and it's just like, okay, time to read the paper. Oh god, you get all your news, and it's like, this is an incredibly useful tool. Why wouldn't you use this? Why wouldn't you? It's a newspaper about the game you're playing and trying to roleplay it. It's this wasn't in WoW. You know what I mean? It's just, come on.
No, I can't even imagine the insane amount of time that people in that group put into that work, because it seems like every day there's something new popping up on that site.
Again, another community tool, ripples in the pond. And it's like all these events are happening. It's like, yeah, now they have something to write about. You know, people get out there, enjoy yourselves. There's great things out there, and I cannot emphasize how you should get involved. I mean, there's groups like the Veil, there's groups like the current, the Ministry, the Herald. It's just everything is out there, just waiting for you to turn up. And this is why I love the Guild Wars community, because I like to think of myself as a role player for a long time, but only when I came to Guild Wars did I really find myself in a very vibrant, passionate community, and I love Tarnished Coast for it. And I never get me wrong, I love it here, and that's why I'm doing these casts, because I want to give groups like the Veil and Ministry and all that, and Herald, again, those three examples just serving for now. But I want to show everyone here they are. So you want in or not? That's basically what I'm doing.
Yeah, if they don't take advantage of that, they're foolish, because I've learned a lot about just different groups that are out there that I didn't know were out there, and it's like, wow, that's actually a really cool idea.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, this is always an open invitation to anyone out there. You want a group, you want a shout out, you want to get on this, PM me. I'm on Engine, a gentleman of leisure who's there, and I'm constantly trying to update my little post saying, hey guys, it's still here, and I'm going to keep going. There's too many good things out there to let it go to waste, so diligently standing here.
No, I mean, this has definitely been a lot of fun, and having listened to previous episodes, I know a lot of different types of guilds that have gone out there, and I've actually run into some of the people there. I actually have a long-standing rivalry with Caden of the Templars that goes back to just past launch, to the point where I've actually ran past him one day and stuck a knife in him and they kept running.
You see what I mean? I mean, I've had these people on the podcast. I'm not. I mean, the world's quite big, so unfortunately, I've not bumped into the Templars for a long time because different parts of the city we hang out in and time zones. And again, it's like if I hadn't gone out of my way to learn a bit about the community, I would have missed that. You know what I mean? It's a case of it's out there. You really got to look. You have to do a bit of looking though, because at the end of the day, tons of people on here. It's an MMO. There's tons. Likelihood of you just stumbling across them, unfortunately, is rare.
Oh, I know, and it was funny because I was at a Icely. I was dragged along to the birthday party of Amari Margolis, who's the GM of the House of Knowledge and Wisdom. And just in that meeting, even though I had seen these people in passing and stuff like that, I had met Toxa Van Shiver and some of his family, Icely, and Gin Hotoro, who you've had previously on the podcast. I met her and her friend Ahio. And it was actually funny because a couple nights later, I beat the crap out of one of Ahio's friends for eyeballing me.
Ripples in the pond, ladies and gentlemen.
And then, him and another person come running up, and, me and the people that I was with was like, oh, crap, somebody saw us, run!
Greg, cover your face, why weren't you wearing a mask? The usual.
No, but it's like little things like that. Like that one particular character for weeks had been trying to take note of our members' comings and goings and had really kind of zoned in on Gruss. And he took notice of it and actually cornered her on the second floor of the Golden Sun, the bar in Osan, one night and told her, I catch you eyeballing me one more time, I'm going to beat the living shit out of you. Well, he caught her eyeballing him one more time, so he beat the shit out of her.
Thug's life, ladies and gentlemen. It's a dangerous life with the RP community. It's all intrigue and
yeah, no, but I mean, that's one of the things I love about playing this type of character is just if I have a bad day at work, I come home, I log in, and if somebody does something that would ICly aggravate the character, all I gotta do is just shoot them and tell, hey, do you mind if he smacks you around a little? And if they're cool with it, I vent through that.
Well, there's a little bit of everyone in the characters at the end of the day, and so and with that, actually, we come to a close. I think we're actually on the limit of my time, and it is nearly 4 a.m. in the morning for me. Blasted time zones. But I've had good company and good alcohol, so it's been a wonderful, wonderful morning.
Dude, seriously, you're a trooper for just doing what you do to just accommodate the people you have on here, really.
No, it's utterly my pleasure. Like I say, I want people to have their chance to get out here and just say, here we are, hear me roar and all that junk. So I'm happy to be here. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I have been a gentleman of leisure, of HandOverTheAmulet, and this is my guest. Say goodbye.
Thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Wonderful. So, like I said, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, it has been an utter pleasure to bring you another AshenCast. Please, I'm starting to slip. Please stay tuned for the upcoming Cops and Robbers special, and also an interview with the Crichton Herald, who I happily will be having on soon. So it's been an utter delicious morning, and so I bid you all good night.